How you doing? You know how this works. Couple of 3 babes over here, 2 guys coming out. We match them up and see what happens. Let's go. Okay, say hello to Janice, a 23-year-old cocktail waitress from Fresno, California. And next to her is Sandy, a 23-year-old cocktail waitress from Fresno, California. And on the end there is Luann, a 23-year-old cocktail waitress from Fresno, California. So you're all from Fresno. You girls know each other?
No. No.
No.
Wow, didn't know Fresno was that big of a burg. Right now, let's...
Oh my God, Sandy, Luann,
Janice!
Oh my God! I didn't know. We all work together at the same bar. Yeah, but I didn't know you were going to be here.
But we all drove down here together.
That's right, we did.
Did you ever? Okay, we met the gals. Let's say hello to our studs du jour. George and Bill, how are you? Here's George Bush. You are President of the United States, and you're running for re-election, that right?
Well, that's right, as far as it goes, but I would like to kind of point out here in sort of a factual interjection mode that this fully taxpayer-funded appearance is not in any way a campaign-related pork trough. I'm just here to, how do the kids say it? Eyelid the tomatoes or eyeball the chickens. looking at these female-type women there with legs flapping around, short dress-wise.
And next to George is Bill Clinton. You are the governor of Arkansas and the Democratic nominee for president.
Let me say that, while I have not referred to myself as such, I do feel that I have a delegate margin which would make me the presumptive favorite with regard to the existing field. But in the context of the time frame in question, certain variables can still impact with unforeseen results to which...
Bill, Avery, it's a half-an-hour show. Okay, guys, you went out on dates with all 3 women. Now let's see if you can match these quotes with the correct date. George, referring to your date, one lady said, "He was friendly, but out of touch." A second lady said, "He offered to make me a Supreme Court justice." And another said, "He spent all night polling me." Okay, George, what do you think?
Alrighty, sort of a decision-type process being thrust upon me here, but get the broad shoulders. Standing out there in the boxing rink, skating by the defensive tackle with the good batting average. Gonna say he was friendly but out of touch. Lulabelle there.
Luann?
No.
Who said it?
I did.
Janice. Okay, tell us about it.
Well, he was friendly but out of touch because for our date, he said he had this really, he called it a nifty idea to go to the supermarket and see how the computer checkout works. I think it kind of surprised him when I told him I'd already seen it. So I suggested we have dinner. He said that was great, but he only carries enough money to buy socks. So couldn't we go back to my house and have my servants cook us something? Well, when I told him I didn't have any servants, he said he'd never met anyone like me, and he'd really like to help me, but he only cares about rich people.
That is a bald-faced lie. I said I only really cared about rich people. Sort of a subtle difference there.
Pry those toes out of the old mouth and try it again. He offered to make me a Supreme Court justice, or he spent all night polling me.
All right. Composure regained. Gonna say Supreme Court justice had to be Ludmilla, is it?
Luann?
No.
Okay, Sandy. A Supreme Court justice, huh?
Well, I think he might have been trying to impress me. He had about 3 wine spritzers, But he did say I was the most qualified person to fill the next vacancy in the court. He said it with such conviction, I almost believed him.
That true, George?
Well, let me say that I stand behind that statement on her qualifications, relatively unequivocally. But let me just add here that if we as a nation start holding people accountable for their statements, whether they're trying to win re-election or get into someone's undergarments, why then I think we're swimming down the wrong road into one heck of a stromboli.
Okay, Bill Clinton, your turn. You had 3 dates, and afterwards, here's what they said. He was too cute by half. Another lady said, he tried to pollute my waterway. And one said, my perfume turned him into a lusting razorback hog. Bill, who said what?
First of all, let me begin by saying that all these quotations, every single one, is a total and complete lie. There is not a grain of truth in any of them, and you as host ought to be ashamed of yourself. And by that I mean that there is some truth in their statements, but the lies far outweigh them, dependent, of course, on the type of scale you're using. So, if you're asking me right now, did they make these statements? I'm sure they think they did. And I'm not going to dispute it because I have admitted that they are true. My argument is, and always has been, with the interpretation of the percentage of truth that is true.
Sorry, people at home, we don't provide transcripts. What do you say, Bill? He was too cute by half? He tried to pollute my waterway? Or my perfume turned him into a lusting razorback hog?
My perfume turned him into a lusting razorback hog. Janice?
That's right! Okay, Janice, let's hear about the date.
Well, on our date, he took me to an all-white country club. And he said I could have anything I wanted because one of his wealthy campaign contributors was picking up the tab. He said he loved the way I smelled, but we kept moving around from table to table for some reason. Finally, though, he offered me a job on the state payroll if I said I would have an affair with him.
Bill, that the way it went?
Everything she just said is a total and complete lie, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Now, we did go to dinner, and it was an all-white country club, and my friend, who is a very wealthy campaign contributor, did pay for it.
So, how is that different?
Excuse me, I didn't interrupt you.
Well, how is that different from what she said?
Basically, just in the conviction in my delivery. Now, moved around a lot. As you may know, I have allergies, and in certain areas of the restaurant, the wind current affected them, so we had to move.
Sort of like dodging a draft, you might say.
That is an out-and-out lie, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I have here a letter from the maitre d' in which he warns me about the possible wind current at the restaurant. Now, this letter is dated a full 2 weeks before. Well, actually, it's dated 2 weeks after our dinner, but it still applies. It applies. And if it doesn't apply, whoever brought this letter up ought to be ashamed. Now, perfume turned him into a lusting hog or whatever. Let me say that I stood and sat near her a time or two, but I don't know what her perfume smelled like because I didn't inhale. Now, offered her a job? Suggested an affair? These are things that no person on a date should have to answer, especially when they are true, and I will not.
I think he's finished talking. George, who do you think the lady said is more likely to say anything just to get elected? You or Bill?
Well, there's sort of a trick constriction to that question there, as though you're trying to hook me like a big saber-toothed watermelon and flip me onto the back of a flatbed cigar store Indian with those intricately carved tribal beads that you insert rectally.
Ladies, who will say anything just to get elected? George or Bill?
Both.
That's what I said.
Okay, Bill. Who did the ladies say has a core set of convictions that would guide them through troubled times? You or George?
Well, let me say that I personally do not...
Ladies, who has core convictions?
Neither.
Hey, I get a heart for that.
Okay, ladies, it's time to choose your date for the next 4 years. George, very quickly, if they choose you, what'll they get?
Well, Wink or Meryl or whatever name you possess there, little taken aback at the specificity of your request. Gonna have to adverb here, totally off the collar, and say that if they choose me, they'll get a gutless, spineless, visionless, cynical government based on the manipulation of short-term public opinion with no regard for the individual freedoms that have made this country great.
That's right.
Bill, if our ladies pick you?
If the ladies pick me, they will get a real agent for change, someone who cares about the working man, health care, civil rights, someone who is, as I have been my whole political life, a borderline psychotic incapable of telling the truth.
Okay, ladies, it's up to you. Who's going to be your date for the next 4 years? George Bush or Bill Clinton? Hey, Ross Perot. Hey, we're in the archives. See you next time.
Do something. I want her. I want them all. I want all these women. I gotta look at this woman. I want her. I want this woman. I want them all.